Hello everyone, welcome to our Bible study series. Today we have reached 2 Kings chapter 4. This chapter filled with miracles performed by Prophet Elisha, from multiplying oil to raising the dead. These stories remind us of God's provision, power, and compassion. The chapter begins with a desperate widow approaching Elisha. Her husband, a faithful servant of God, has died, and now creditors are threatening to take her two sons as slaves. She has nothing left except a small jar of oil. Elisha tells her to borrow as many empty jars as possible from her neighbors. Then she is instructed to pour her little oil into the jars. Miraculously, the oil keeps flowing until every jar is full. Elisha then tells her to sell the oil, pay off her debts, and live off the rest. The story reminds us that God provides even in our darkest moments, but we must trust Him and act in faith. Next, we meet a wealthy Shunammite woman who shows hospitality to Elisha whenever he visits. She and her husband even build a room in their house for him. To reward her kindness, Elisha prophesies that she will have a son despite her husband being old. Just as Elisha said, she gives birth to a son, but years later tragedy strikes. The boy suddenly dies in her arms. Instead of despairing, the woman rushes to find Elisha, refusing to accept her son's death. Elisha arrives, prays, and stretches himself over the child, and after a miraculous moment, the boy comes back to life. This story shows us that faith and persistence move the heart of God, and that He can bring life into hopeless situations. In another event where Elisha and a group of prophets face a food crisis during a famine, they gather wild goats for stew, but unknowingly the food is poisonous. As they eat, they realize the danger and cry out, "There is death in the pot." Elisha acts quickly. He throws some flour into the pot and the poison is miraculously neutralized. They eat safely, showing that God protects His people even in small daily needs. The chapter ends with a miracle that foreshadows Jesus feeding the 5,000. A man brings Elisha 20 loaves of bread and some grain, but there are 100 hungry men. Elisha declares, "The Lord says they will eat and have some left over." Sure enough, everyone eats and there is food left over. This miracle reminds us that God is our provider and nothing is impossible for Him. This chapter teaches us these key lessons. God provides when we trust Him, just like He did for the widow. Faith moves God, as seen in the Shunammite woman's story. God protects His people even from unexpected dangers. God's provision is abundant and He can multiply our resources when we rely on Him. Each of these miracles points us to God's power and care in our lives today. Thank you for joining us in understanding this chapter. If this chapter encouraged you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. What was your favorite miracle in this chapter? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, stay faithful and stay blessed. Thank you.